Hey, what's going on, Guardians? My name is the Black Link, and earlier this week, we had our first Stasis Spotlight showing off the incoming Warlock Stasis subclass with Destiny 2 Beyond Light, Shadebinder. And of course, today, we're getting another Stasis Spotlight, this time focusing on the incoming Titan Behemoth class. Now, just like last time, Bungie put up an article going in depth about some of the details that are going to be surrounding this class and the things that we're going to be doing when we get our hands on it later this year. So we're going to be going over that article and giving our thoughts on that here. Of course, there is a link to this article down in the description box below where you can check out all of these pictures and all this information for yourself. Let's go ahead and dive on into the Stasis Spotlight for the Titan Behemoth. First, we get a nice rundown of the basics of the class. Bungie says that as we discussed in our previous edition of this series, each Stasis subclass will embody a facet of Stasis. Warlock Shadebinders emphasize freezing enemies, and as you'll learn more about next week, the Hunter Revenant is a specialist at slowing the action down. The Titan Behemoth uses Stasis as a means of both creation and destruction. With the Behemoth, we wanted to put an emphasis on the ability to use Stasis to create crystals that can alter the battle by changing the very ground beneath your feet. Control the ground, control the fight. As a result, the Behemoth can use their Stasis abilities defensively, such as creating crystalline walls to block enemies and gunfire, or offensively, by using crystals to freeze enemies. And just like last time, we got this great overshot of the Titan Behemoth class, talking a bit about some of the abilities that are going to be there, like Shiver Strike, Ground Control, and the Glacial Quake Super, which Bungie goes on to describe here. The Titan Behemoth can unleash a powerful melee attack known as the Shiver Strike. Here, the Titan lunges forward, launched by a stasis explosion at their feet to propel them towards an enemy. Can you think of anything more Titan than that? You use an explosion that you launch yourself at your feet to shoot yourself towards an enemy. Great stuff. While in midair, they summon a stasis gauntlet that covers their fist and then slams into their foe, sending them careening backwards and slowing nearby enemies. And that indeed is the melee attack we got to see a lot of in the previously released B-roll and trailer footage that we got earlier in the week. The Behemoth Super, Glacial Quake, begins with the Titan forming a mighty gauntlet on their fist. They can then slam the gauntlet into the ground, sending out shockwaves that form stasis crystals which freeze nearby enemies. Covered in an armor of stasis crystals, which we now know is called crystalline plating, the Titan temporarily becomes an unstoppable wrecking machine, able to jump higher, faster, and farther, all while blasting enemies with greatly increased melee attacks. And while the description is fairly bombastic there, it's mostly going to work kind of like Striker does now, where you pop your super, you become empowered, and then your attacks change, well now in the form of the Stasis Behemoth class, to both freeze and detonate targets. The article goes on to state that if frozen enemies are the bowling pins, think of the Titan Behemoth during their Glacial Quake Super as the bowling ball, able to instantly shatter enemies as they sprint or slide through them. Running amok in a crowd of bad guys and shattering them like a perfect 10-pin strike is a fine strategy, but there's a degree of subtlety there too, if you want it. For example, you can cancel out of a slide into a massive stasis-powered leap, only to cancel that just at the right moment and direct the Behemoth downward into a devastating slam. So punch if you must, but know that Stasis has plenty more to offer you, Titan. And so there we go, there's the basic description of some of the abilities as well as the Glacial Quake Super that are going to be a part of the Titan Behemoth subclass. And of course, we got a great look at that kind of stuff late last week with some of the trailers we got. Next up, we get a look at what some of the Stasis aspects and fragments are going to be for the Titan Behemoth subclass. We covered a bit about this in the previous Warlock Shadebinder video. You're essentially going to have further customization options called aspects and fragments that you'll be able to get out in the world as you play the game and use to customize your subclass. And the examples we're given this time are the Tectonic Harvest Stasis aspect, which on its own looks like kind of a frozen fallen arm, and its ability reads as thus: shattering a stasis crystal creates a stasis shard. This shard grants melee energy when picked up by you or your allies. So when you freeze enemies and shatter them, they're going to drop these stasis shards. You pick that up, it gives you back melee energy so you can go on punching and freezing. Kind of building into what we talked about in the previous Stasis Spotlight video with the Warlock Shade Binders, using your abilities and then getting energy for those abilities back by using them. It's a great cycle of play that I'm super happy to see us moving forward with Titans here too, with punching stuff. Next up, we've got the Whisper of Durance Stasis Fragment. Slow from your abilities lasts longer. For those abilities that linger, their duration will also increase. This also gives you plus 10 to your strength, again feeding back into that melee focused build. Now slow, I'm assuming, is going to be an ice effect on the enemies around that kind of slows their movements. Similar to what the Hunter Smoke Bomb can do for people right now. So having this equipped is going to make that slow debuff last longer, as well as give you plus 10 to your strength, again for that melee energy. Creating a great cycle of play and customization with these classes that I am really happy to see coming to the game. We know that these aren't going to be the only fragments and aspects that we're going to be earning as we play through Destiny 2 Beyond Light. There's going to be way more ways to customize your characters and kind of lean into that RPG element of building a class, crunching the numbers, and playing the way you want to play when Beyond Light comes out. I cannot wait to learn more about that. But anyways, Bungie ends this by saying, next week we'll be going deeper into Stasis with our look at the third and final subclass, the Hunter Revenant. How do you make the quickest class even more deadly? By slowing down everything around them. That's how. And of course, that will be updated on Bungie's personal website, and we will be having videos coming out later on explaining everything we learn about the Hunter Revenant subclass. But that's pretty much all the new information we got from this Stasis Spotlight. It looks like you Titans will be trading in the electrically charged fist for some ice when Beyond Light comes around, and I'm pretty excited to see everything we're going to be able to do. But anyways, that's the news, and those are my thoughts. Be sure to leave me yours down in the comment section below. Have you seen some of this Titan Behemoth gameplay? What are your thoughts on it? Be sure to let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like, make sure you subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest stuff we're putting out. But I'm out for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I am the Black Link. You Guardians, stay frosty.